to you all. My name is Andrew Chung. I'm artistic producer of London Symphonia. Today I've got with me Beau Dixon. Hello, Beau.
Hello.
And Beau is the creator behind Freedom, the Spirit and Legacy of Black Music that we will all be performing on February 24th at Metropolitan United. So, Beau, I want to know, I want to find out a little bit about you. I want to find out about the source of this amazing program that we're putting together. So let's go way back. So you were born in Detroit, and I know that at some point you went to high school in London. When did you move there?
Yes, well, I actually went to public school. Uh, I moved to London. I should preface by saying I'm the only American in the family.
Uh,
My dad, my mom, my brother and sister were born, raised in Canada. My dad was a minister and happened to have a church in Detroit. Uh, and then I was born and we lived there for 7, 8 years of my life, and then moved to London, Ontario, where he had another church. And so I was in public school in London, and then spent a couple of years high school in London, then moved to Ottawa to go to an art school. London, Ontario, for me as a youth, it was enjoyable, a great place to be raised. But when I get into my early teens, boredom started to hit, and it was, my mom especially was feeling the need for us to move. So after my parents got divorced, my mom was like, "We're gonna get you out of this get you out of these group of friends, and um, you're gonna start to do something with your life."
Fresh start in Ottawa. And that was to go to an arts high school, you said.
That's right, Canterbury High School.
Okay. And music and acting, were they both part of your interests at that stage?
For music, you know, at the age of 13, 14, I wanted to play in rock bands. I wanted to be a rock star. And once I got to this art school, started a band, and for 10 years after graduating, it was music full time,
Mm.
touring on the road with bands. So I didn't get involved with theater until uh, 2000, and I had moved to Peterborough. Well, I was stopping over in Peterborough because my mom remarried and she was living there with her husband, and a theater producer in Peterborough had heard about me. And so I meet up with him, and I meet up at the restaurant, and he slides a script across the table, and it was called Freedom for All.
Oh.
And I knew right then, it's like, oh, this guy needs an actor of color to play this, to be this slave in chains, to play this character in this play. And he couldn't find someone of color, and he heard of me. And he just, he asked me to do a reading of it. I did a reading of the play, Freedom for All, and then I was cast in the play, and it was a touring play. We toured that for a few years to public schools and high schools in central Ontario. So that was my first, I would say 2003 was my first professional gig.
Hmm.
And it was during that tour that I was getting a bit frustrated with the material, the the context of the play, and I felt that it wasn't really connecting, engaging with the students enough of, you know, to for it to coincide with this Black History Month curriculum in the school. And the theater producer said, "Well, you can either quit or you can write your own play and we'll produce it. So that's when I started writing plays. It was sort of a few years after my first professional acting gig.
I see. I see. And then out of that, oh my goodness. Then we get Freedom, the name of this concert, but that was preceded by these two very successful shows called Freedom Cabaret and Freedom Cabaret 2.0. So this idea seems to be a natural extension, maybe, of what you've been working on as an actor from the year 2000. So tell me about when the idea took root of this sort of format for Freedom Cabaret.
This idea took root. I give all credit to Anthony Chimolino, artistic director at Stratford Festival. During the pandemic, well, I would say just when things were getting a bit easier or lightening up, um, Anthony reached out to me and he was sharing the plan to have tents for it to be outdoor shows for Stratford Festival. And he asked if I would create and music direct a show, a concert that focused on our Black heritage. And that was that. And but I sort of knew right away once he gave me free reign. I knew right away what I was what I was going to do, and um, my I had an understanding of what it meant, and I'm going to call it a docu-concert.
Hmm.
It's not really a sexy title, but it really encapsulates what Freedom Cabaret is, where you're taking sort of a journalistic approach. There's narrative text um, interwoven with song, and the text is sort of a narrative guide through the history of these songs, and also using um, uh, quotes from poets of that era or over the century, poets that celebrate um, the the Black music, the Black canon of 21st and 20th century, predominantly Western music. Um, so docu concert is sort of the title that I kind of spawned, but I learned about creating docu concerts through Mike Ross, who's at Soul Pepper Theater. I've done a few shows with him in the past, and I am a music resident at Soul Pepper, and so I have since Freedom Cabaret, I've written a few more docu concerts, and so Freedom Freedom One. As soon as I got the green light from Anthony to do whatever I felt like doing, I knew that I've always had this desire, Andrew. I think in all the work that I do, especially the plays that I write, um, I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors, my father's ancestors specifically. I've always been curious about my African diaspora and my lineage, and I'm always rooting for the underdog. And um, through our education, the education system in Canada, especially, the um, the African Canadian is not talked about. Our African Canadian heritage is not celebrated. It's not a lot of it is found in the textbooks in elementary and secondary schools. And so I really felt that there would be a platform for that to celebrate Black music and to investigate the history of Black music and how it's been, I'm going to say undermined or undervalued um, in the music industry, and by sort of investigating it and looking at sort of uncovering some of the layers um, of these songs, the meaning of the songs, the songwriters and their history and why they wrote those songs at that particular time, we can then get more of an understanding uh, of our African roots and also of our musical roots. It's apparent that uh, Black music has been an integral element to rock and roll, to blues, to gospel, to classical, to many genres, and you know, taking going back to the early 1900s, um, exploring sacred music, spiritual music, slave traditional slave songs. We can see the marriage of uh, popular music and the spawning of the birth of popular music, rhythm and blues through early Black music.
Was it clear to you from the beginning how far back you wanted to go?
Yes, it was from the very beginning. It was clear that I wanted us to explore slave spirituals and to do it chronologically and to show the evolution of music. Now, that's a broad stroke, to say, oh, well, in 90 minutes, we're going to tell you the history of Black music. It's impossible to do that. But um, through the use of, well known uh, African American poets, um, and songwriters, their through their words, the interviews, finding chapters in books, and just taking those and um, using that as a narrative through line, taking us and starting with music that was created from the moment that slaves landed um, in America, and I'm talking, 19, before the Black Renaissance, before the migration. What were those songs that they were humming in the fields, and what did those songs mean to them at that time?
It seemed to you're destined to put together this show. Your skills as a playwright, your interest in the music lineage, through over 100 years. Um, how hard was it to pick what stood out to you to include in this show? There's so much music to choose from, so much that you could choose from, so much poetry to choose from.
Well, that's interesting. Having parameters, because Stratford was doing this, they were filming it. And in order for us to, we had to spend a lot of time inquiring about the rights to getting these songs, to be able to perform them live and to have them recorded. And so I had a list of, like, maybe 75 songs. I knew I had to bring it down to, 13 songs, maybe 20. Um, and so it was, I would pick about 30 songs Well, actually, I submitted about 50 songs, and then a lot came back like, no, we can't perform that song live.
Oh.
The publishing company won't allow it. And so it was process of elimination that was the deciding factor, Andrew. And it was also, knowing that I had these parameters, I could then focus more on, okay, point of interest, as opposed to knowing, well, I had all the freedom in the world, pun intended, to choose whatever song. It's like, well, no, I'm limited just because of for legal matters. And it's like, okay, well, then I'm going to have to base the concept around what songs stick, what songs I'm able to use. But in saying that, I was still left with songs that had a story and had a lineage and a chronological sort of path that allowed me to still tell the story that I wanted to tell. Um, so because there's a large canon of black music, and so there was a lot to go around. It was just I had to sort of wait till the 11th hour to really piece everything together and make it a whole show.
Now, I never saw Freedom Cabaret 1 live, but I did see Freedom Cabaret 2, and it literally blew the roof off the new Tom Patterson Theater where it was performed. I was absolutely astounded. So for that one, no orchestra, but an all-black cast of seven, four singers, including yourself, and on piano. It was the docu-concert concept was so successful, and oh my gosh, it was a great show. So the singers that you're appearing with, you've chosen them, to my eye, it seems to be also part of the theater world. So you're choosing actors who can sing or singers who can act. Was that deliberate that they would be able to kind of deliver that narrative aspect, act out that narrative aspect?
Well, first of all, thank you for the compliment regarding the Freedom 2 show, and it we could feel the energy, the positive energy and the love, and that was so reassuring and so confirming as far as the power of the music and what people wanted to hear that summer, that season. And I was actually feeling confident. You know what? We could have done this longer than just the schedule that we had. We were just getting warmed up, and people were just starting to find out about it. But and getting back to your next thing with the three singers, four including me, I knew that Alana Bridgewater, I knew that I wanted her um, because it is true, Andrew. There is a lot of talent in central Ontario in Canada, but there are very few singers slash actors that have comparable experience and understanding of a docu-concert.
Mm.
And it's the little things like the having the rhythmic execution of speaking to an audience and then going into the song.
Mm.
Um, there's some great actors, but some actors overact, and then it doesn't come across as sincere or authentic. And so there's a very fine balance, a fine line, um, and it's you really have to maintain that balance, or it can come across as being again false or disingenuine.
Yep. And
Um,
what I saw was just this beautiful, seamless arc that was so well done. I've never witnessed anything, I don't think. Now that I'm familiar with this term, docu-concert, I've never seen a docu-concert that successful, where the thread of the narrative was just so great.
well,
So
that's great.
we add London Symphony. We're adding an orchestra into this mix. You turn to your longtime collaborator Mike McLennan. Tell me about that. How he and you helped to create these charts and make some decisions.
Well, Mike McLennan connected with me, and he's one of the best, which is why he's used so much in Stratford for arranging and stuff. And Mike is a very smart musician, and so he understands what's needed. Um, and you know, he understands also because race race does not have a lockdown on how good of a musician how good of a musician you are, but there is this language that I think, if you are of that culture, there is a style in which you would play or in which you would execute certain chords or progressions, and Mike gets it. And I desperately wanted to have a person of color involved with the orchestration, but it's very difficult to find
Mm,
a person of color that does orchestration.
mm,
And Mike was, he's still the best option because he's very patient, he's affable, um, he's committed, and his voicings and his counterpoint, his use of counterpoint harmony, um, and just understanding of when certain notes should be added, just the involvement of space. He
mm,
understands. He understands um, uh, the sense of orchestration and the nuance to make, uh, especially this genre, soul, R&B, gospel, how to complement it as opposed to uh, suffocating it with orchestration or giving it too much. How do you say? Well, you can you can, like a like a weed that is just wild. You can strangle the root, and it can just be oversaturated. And Mike's very conscious of just letting the instruments breathe, and he's very conscious of where the songs, how it should have a through line in the arc of each song.
mm,
So, and I think him being involved with Stratford Festival, playing in orchestra pits for music theater, that is very important. That's very much, that plays into his how he arranges the material.
mm,
And so, with Freedom Cabaret, it started out as, um, I would give him certain arrangements, whether it's on the voice memo. I would have ideas with turning a standard, uh, a Marvin Gaye song and giving it a bit of a twist. Um, I can relay that to Mike, and he understands what I'm looking for. Um, but he's also quick. He's very proficient with his work, and so through the rehearsal process with Freedom Cabaret One and Freedom Cabaret Two, I was able to throw him a number of things, and with great grace and patience, he was able to come back to me with the lead sheets or with the questions in time for us to work it out. He never lost his cool, which in this line of work, it's very important to keep your cool because a lot of things are going to be thrown your way in every facet. And then when it came time to doing the London Symphony, it just made sense because we have a working relationship. He's done so much for me in the past. It was like he said yes to orchestrating for this show, and I'm so grateful because it's a lot. And so he's able to
Mm.
send me stuff. I can listen to it, look it over. I give him my thoughts. He's usually right. There's usually never any need to do any editing or whatever.
Yeah,
And it's a great partnership.
I love it. Well, Beau, thank you so much for joining us today and joining me today. Thanks for joining London Symphonia for Freedom, our concert on February 24th. I can't wait to get rehearsing this with all of you and to bring that energy to Metropolitan United. Um, Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew.